You know, I had another one for y'all tonight. It's the top five fire jutsu specialists in Naruto. These were the ones I came up with. At number five, it's gonna be somebody might be like, what? But I got the third Hokage. I got Hiruzen at number three. You know, not at number three. I got him at number five. At number three, I have somebody that you probably like. Somebody you probably know about. But number five is Hiruzen. See, Hiruzen is a guy who came from the Saratobi clan. They use fire jutsu, much like the Uchiha clan does. But they know a move called Fire Dragon Jutsu. And see, he knew how to use that shit every time he fought. I'm pretty sure he used that move. It was one of his, moves he had in his, bag. So he's at number five. Now at number four, we got Obito. Obito had that move where he used, a little bit of, fire. He used a fan to create fire, and then he also, or he used the fan to, intensify this attack. I'm not remembering. I can't remember what jutsu was called, but he uses fireball jutsu. He uses, Phoenix fire jutsu. He uses, all kind of fire jutsus as well. You know, he's of the Uchiha clan. He has Uchiha blood. So he's good at doing that. But at number three, and I was talking about number three at the beginning. I brought it up, because it's Madara, right? So we know Madara Uchiha, right? He knew um the Great Destroyer Flame Jutsu, Majestic Destroyer Flame, right? That's the move he used against the Allied Shinobi forces. He used that against all the water jutsu users. They try to put up a wall, and he matched that with his fire jutsu. So it was pretty intense. It was like 30 guys from the Hidden Mist village versus this guy, and he matched their power with just one fire attack. And then he used that move against the five Kages, and it almost wiped them out sooner than it did. Just using that. Onoki had to get their spirits up real quick, because he burnt that forest down after he used wood style. He burnt all that shit too. He utilized fire in a great way, right? But there's two people who have him beat. That's Itachi, right? Itachi, he knew fireball jutsu from a young age, right? And we know how he's a natural talent. Itachi's a natural talent. He picks up on things easily. Fireball jutsu came to him, quick. He didn't have to, work that out of it. Then later on, when he had the Mangekyo Sharingan, he used the Amaterasu. When he used the Amaterasu, right, it overcame, Fireball Jutsu. Sasuke's Fireball Jutsu. He knows how to use, Amaterasu, pretty damn well. And it does beat all the fire on this list. It does, because this is a flame that burns fire itself, right? He was known as a man who could burn fire itself. That's the shit that that's how Obito, categorizes this man at Itachi. But also, the person at number one definitely, took this ability and, improved it, because guess what? He has flame control Amaterasu. He can use that better because his eyes are EMS. He has Itachi eyes installed in his eyes, so he can now use Amaterasu without having to worry about anything. Only when he loses chakra, right? but he can, use that as much as he wants to until he loses his chakra. He's a lightning jutsu specialist too, but he was first a fireball jutsu specialist. You know, and he trained hard for that. Even at a young age, he was 7 years old, just trying to impress his dad, and he used that shit right. It was, an indicator of his, future, basically. Because guess what? He went against Danzo. He used fireball jutsu. He used that shit against Data. He used that shit against, Itachi. Then he used Amaterasu. Amaterasu was, used at its, greatest during the fight against Kaguya and Madara. And Sasuke is the one who did that. So the top 5 fire users in Naruto, ninjas with fire nature, you know, the best ones, the top 5 is Hiruzen, Obito, Madara, Itachi, and Sasuke. Those are your, fire users for Naruto. But be cool, call on the corner, and let me know what you think in the comments below.